What's up, guys? Welcome to the Anonymous Writers podcast. I am Joey, and today I'm joined by Doruk.
Hello, people.
And today we have a special version of the podcast. We have someone who sent us in about 18 pages of a story, and, well, we liked it enough that we're going to go and we're going to review it. So that's going to be a majority of the show, but make sure you turn out a little bit later. We've got another good question for you writers out there about whether you want to turn your story into a single book or into a series of smaller books. And then we also have a nice contest at the end to discuss. So let's get right into it. So we have a submission from Jillian. She is a creative writing major, I believe she said. She sent us...
Yeah, I think so.
She's got... She sent us a couple portfolios, but what she really wanted to do was look at her fantasy story. I think you can call it a fantasy story. And here's the summary of what she gave us so far. The story centers around this girl named Trisha, whose parents have died in a fire already. She saw a creature in their bedroom the night of the fire and was knocked out by some unknown figure. She moves cities and lives with her Aunt Christy along with her brother Tyler, and she keeps having these weird encounters with these creatures. I'm guessing it's creatures. There's because they're. We'll see.
I think they're like a species almost.
Yeah. So there's multiple creatures. So prior to the introduction to this scene, she was seen on a hill in San Rafael, which I know you probably don't know, but that sounds like it's in California. She's got a couple references to other places in California, and she's with a guy named Aaron. So we're going to dive right into it at the start. So everything in black here is her writing. Everything in red is just some little notes about stuff that I want to go over and just give some criticism. So right off the bat, I just want to say as disclaimers, first off, when reading this, I got the idea, the tone is that it's a girl writing from a girl's character perspective. So, I'm still trying to start writing, so is Doruk. So we're going to see a lot of this through a guy's eyes. So if there's some things about tone or some things about how we think, maybe the character should or shouldn't act, and you're feeling like, no, that's how my character would react, just know that might be something coming from us looking at it as a guy's angle and maybe through the eyes of a guy. So we're trying to look at it through more of a neutral perspective with it, but obviously if that's something you'd want to avoid, feel free to ignore those criticisms. The other thing is about stuff that might be established before this part, because obviously this is mid-story. Stuff has happened already. Stuff might have been established. We just don't know. We're going off of what we've read. So if stuff has been established that we're asking about, feel free to ignore that too. You'll have established it already. So from the start, obviously you can read along about stuff beforehand. So we're going to go to my first just question mark. I think it should be a dark underground jail cell.
Although I kind of like the dank underground jail cell.
Yeah, I just don't think dank would describe it. I'm not sure. I think maybe, a dark underground jail cell. Maybe you can... Maybe here, if you want to add a little bit to it, I'm someone who likes to describe my surroundings and give maybe too much detail. So, maybe describe a little bit more about it. Is that, are there cracks? Are there some, cracks she can feel or she can kind of see? Is there water dripping somewhere in the background? We'll talk a little bit more later about the bars, but, is there moss growing? Is there some other plant that's kind of growing in? Is it a new jail cell? Is it an old jail cell? So I would recommend if you want, maybe just talking a little bit more, just describing it, maybe a couple of sentences, not even a couple sentences, maybe instead of having the comma right here, hopefully you can see the highlight, but maybe just taking that into a full sentence describing the jail cell, and then saying, you know, I was trapped with Aaron, and then have that be the comma right here, and then the guy for all I knew wanted to roast me on a pit and eat me. So, you know, then we go on. She was with Aaron on this hill. They get sent. They jump into the cave. She gets confronted by these creatures. They carried some metallic object in their hand. She gets away from Aaron, and then she gets thrown in this jail cell along with Aaron, and the creatures disappear from view. So, right here, I don't know if you're going for a little bit like of a sense of mystery with the creatures, but I think it would be awesome to kind of describe what these creatures look like. You know, they're supposed to be the antagonists in here, so, you know, just kind of imagining, you know, what these creatures look like. You know, there's plenty of, you know, dark, demon-like creatures with no real face throughout many different works. So I would just come up with this picture of something that would be extremely scary to look at. You know,
I mean, to be honest, I don't think this is the first time the character sees the creatures, so I don't think a description should be necessary here.
Okay, so yeah, if you have established what these creatures look like, maybe you can do that, or maybe like each creature can be unique as well. You know,
yeah, that could be something.
So that could also be something there of, you know, maybe like one creature has like these wings, describe the wings. One creature has like a tail and 6 arms. And, you know, kind of describe these metallic objects in their hand too. I'm guessing they're...
Yeah, I feel like that sparks more curiosity, actually.
Yeah, like, the metallic objects kind of spark a little curiosity. Maybe just throw, like, a shape into there, or something that they kind of look like. So it still adds a little bit to it, but it still leaves it in mystery of, like, you know, what are these metallic objects? Are they the thing of the source of their power? Is it some special key? Is it, you know, what is it? So, I think if you just add some more detail into this paragraph, because this is obviously a paragraph that's, I don't know the technical term for it, but I like to think of it as a paragraph that has action in it that's also giving you detail. So it's doing a little bit of both. Because, you know, obviously you wouldn't need this much writing to describe just you and someone else getting thrown into a jail cell. So just add some detail to that. So, kind of go through it a little bit here. You know, obviously nothing too wrong. Then we get to the orb in Aaron's hands. You know, I would just say, because I did kind of want to go a little bit in depth here. This isn't too big of a deal. You saying it didn't cast enough light for you to see the entire layout of the cell, but I could see the bloodstains on the wall next to the cell door. I think maybe the bloodstains on the wall to the cell door could be put higher, perhaps, and then just...
What do you mean higher?
Like, when she gets thrown into this jail cell and describing everything around.
To describe the jail cell, alright.
Yeah, and then in here you can talk about, you know, the orb didn't cast enough light for me to see the entire layout of the cell. Aaron seemed to have it grasped firmly into his hands to try and hide it from these creatures. Maybe something along those lines. Just to kind of give... Because this orb, as we see a little bit later on, gets a lot more importance.
Okay, hold on. I'll just take care of my cat here.
No worries. So, like, this orb obviously has some importance to it, because you brought it up right away. You know, I think the significance of it comes from, you know, how Aaron is treating it, how he's reacting to it. He doesn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, so I think that would be a nice place to go with that. The dialogue is nice. Um, the dialogue, the little interaction here. Here, I'm guessing, he looked at me like he was paying, but I didn't let him speak. I didn't want to listen, to what he said. Maybe going off of something like that. I'm not too sure. That's me. I think that's more of my guy coming out instead of a girl. I would say, as like a guy character, Aaron looked pain, and he tried to explain it to me, but I wasn't listening to him. Something like that. But as a girl, if not letting him speak is what you want to go with, that's fine. It's not too big of a thing. Then
I feel like it works though. Like she starts speaking right after that, so
yeah, I mean it does work. That's why I say it's coming from me as a guy, but it seems to work. The next thing here is just these triple dots at the end. I feel like instead of putting the triple dots in there, you can it's just, and then describe how he trails off, or like his voice dropped while he looked at his hands.
Okay.
So you don't have to, like, for me as a writer, I don't like the triple dots. Every writer is different, but I think, like in that moment, or like, I feel like it would be better off if you just described, he started his sentence. You don't have to punctuate it at the end, and so it could just read, "It's just," and then the quotation mark here, and then his voice dropped while staring at his hands.
Yeah, okay, I can see where you're coming from.
And I think here for the triple dots, don't you remember me? He asked. No, comma, should I? I feel like the
comma is probably better here. I was gonna say the same thing.
I think a comma, or even just ending the quote. Like if you want it to like show an expression of time, no, and then end the quotation there. Trisha quickly responded, but then paused, and then should I as the next quotation mark, just to kind of. I feel like that would work a little bit better here. The second sentence here in this, this is hard to explain. I've thought of different scenarios on how to tell you this, but none of them involved a dark jail cell in a parallel world. Maybe just, this is hard to explain. I never thought you'd see this parallel world, and I would never imagine having to explain it to you this way. I think that would work a lot better. I just feel like the rewording of that sentence in that way would work a whole lot better, of just, I never, like, because he's obviously, from what it looks like you're describing here, is something that he had thought of, but he never really wanted to tell her about it. And then, obviously also saying about how it's, how they're also still in this dark jail cell with it. So, I've never thought I would have to tell you about or I never thought you'd discover this parallel world, let alone get thrown into a jail cell in there. Or,
I mean, this quote feels a little too specific, I think.
Yeah.
I think it kind of feels, it kind of reminds me of like a quippy funny line from a big budget movie.
Yeah.
That a character would say.
Yeah. So I feel like here, you just reword that a little bit and it turns out a lot better. And then here you have a reference to Doctor Who. So I think that's something, obviously we're looking at this from how it is now. If you go in your book and you've established, this is just a normal girl, these are the shows she watches, maybe she's watched it with, this Aaron character, and she's watched like other episodes or other shows with other people, then this will work fine.
So basically she's a girl from our world as we know it now.
Yeah, just something from our world that that kind of establishes that this could be like this could be just any girl who gets thrown into this situation. obviously with the limited resources we have about the show, about what has happened, it's hard to kind of just pick up like, okay, how did Doctor Who get brought into this? But if you have her just even like a scene or a paragraph about her just thinking about, like, she sits down on the couch or she lays down on her bed thinking about the day while watching Doctor Who in the back, like Doctor Who plays in the background as she does this or that, or thinks about this or thinks about that, then I feel like that's easy, and that can establish that she is a normal girl, and these actual world references to different shows would work a lot better.
Yeah, I was gonna actually come to that later on, but I feel like the references are a little hard on this compared to its size, to specifically.
Yeah. So
I don't. Of course, I don't know the character too well, and it just might be me, but I don't feel like you reference a show in that situation, as you are afraid so.
Yeah. So, the explanation for the amulet, I like it.
Yeah, I like it as well. It's quite interesting.
The where'd you get that? There's a rule about quotes. I'm pretty sure that you can kind of break grammar. You can break grammar in a quote because it's a character saying something, not you writing it. Mm-hmm. But I would just kind of be careful with that, because if you start having a character who's constantly breaking grammar in one scene, and then the next scene he's talking and he's an English teacher with how he talks, then that doesn't flow too well. So just be careful with that. If it's kind of like a casual break of grammar here or there, then we can kind of understand that he's just a normal person talking. So when he hands the amulet, and you kind of have this memory about it, it's like, I remember being so happy that I remembered how to spell the word forever. Mm-hmm. I think from that you could go to a different memory. I think remembering how to spell the word forever is not something that would resonate too much with the audience you're trying to go to. But if you go to a different memory, the amulet made her remember how much fun she had with her first with her friend before she realized they were imaginary, or remembered the first time they played. And then you could just kind of make up a game. Like, you don't even have to establish the game too much, just like a simple game, like playing that simple game.
So would you take out the emphasis on the spelling of forever, or?
Yeah, I would take out that as the memory that the amulet brings back. I would say make it a more powerful memory there, just to kind of bring this character to some emotions, because remembering to spell something doesn't bring as much emotion as a real playing a game, or even showing it off to your parents, or maybe just the memory of meeting your friend at that time. So
I kind of see that, but I also feel like I can understand the point of bringing out a feeling better than the way it is, but I feel like this also emphasizes the word forever specifically. So, and as we're going to find in, I guess, 3 lines, Aaron is actually Leonard, so I think it might be an emphasis on that, and it brings in a little bit of context, I guess. That they're still together even though she doesn't know.
Maybe you could just emphasize, I remember being so happy meeting my first friend and him telling me that we would be together forever. Maybe
I guess that would flow better.
That would be, if you wanted to emphasize forever, that would be a perfect way to do it as well. So, the next part, it's, why would they want you to leave me alone? And then, coming to the realization, you were are Leonard, I think you can get rid of the triple dots and just say you were. I mean, you are Leonard, my imaginary, like my friend from back then, or something like that. Like you can, instead of just having her pause there a bunch, you can have her just stammering. I think if she's like stammering from there, it kind of gives a more realistic tone to her. Like,
I don't know. I kind of like it as it is.
I mean, like the pausing in there when changing your mind is something you'd see a lot more as like a movie character. I kind of see, whereas like a real life person, when they kind of figure out something, especially when they're in the middle of a sentence, they would just start stammering, trying to blurt out words that just kind of keep it going. So kind of, I mean, what, stuff like that, to just put in
okay,
there.
I see it.
And then the next sentence behind that is, Aaron nodded, his blonde locks swished with the movement. I think you can describe this better. I have long hair, really long hair, or not really long hair, but long enough hair that it moves with wind. And I can tell you for a fact that simply nodding back and forth to get the hair to move in that like that, I would have to be borderline breaking my neck to nod in agreement. So I think if you want to describe Aaron's look, maybe you can describe the light from the orb and how it reflects off his blonde hair gave it a certain tint. I think if you want to go with a little more realistic look there, because they're obviously in a cave, so there's no real wind pushing against them.
Yeah, I mean, this statement kind of reminds me of like a shampoo commercial.
Yeah. So I would say describing that as well.
Yeah, probably.
So we can move down a little ways, talking about parents. They were guardians like me, like you. The walls seemed to cave in on me when he said that my parents were/are guardians. I would just go with my parents were guardians with a question mark. And then that didn't make any sense to me. Maybe like I tried to light.
I kind of felt like this was the writer's indecisiveness here. I thought she was gonna like change it later. I don't know.
I would go with my parents were guardians because I'm guessing at this point the parents are dead, so going with the past tense there would make more sense to me. And then maybe I tried to lighten the mood, with, oh, you mean like Guardians of the Galaxy? Obviously getting a reference in there, but and it's trying to go back off on a memory. You're obviously trying to build up past experiences here, which I think is fine. It's a real good storytelling, like a really good storytelling method to keep going with. I would just say be a little careful with how you describe the memories.
I'm kinda not too happy about the reference here. I'm gonna talk more about that on page 6, so I'll just let that go right now.
Yeah, I mean, going to see I remember going with my parents to see the movie when it came out. Just them and myself, like, just the three of us. Tyler was at a friend's house, and my parents were both off for the weekend, their first time in months. Then you just kind of transition to a dance-off right afterwards. Maybe you can describe, going out afterwards or going out before the movie and playing a game. Obviously you have this reference in here, so you could just say, my dad tried so hard to beat me at the dancing machine at the restaurant we went to, but he couldn't keep his footing right. He kept falling on the floor, which made everyone in the restaurant turn around and look at him. But and then I didn't mind the stairs, since it was nice to be spending some time with my dad. I think that's how I would reword that. And then I don't think you need to go Aaron back in the cell. Gave me a look.
Yeah, you could just go, Aaron gave me a look, and
Aaron gave me a look that he wasn't, that he didn't want to hear, like he didn't want to lighten up the mood. Trisha, this is serious. Your parents were, and then have him just be cut, like just stop the sentence right there, and then say, in the next one, Trisha, cut him off. I know this is serious, Aaron. Or should I say, Leonard? I'm finding it difficult to believe this is really happening. I turned my back from him. So
you'd say, like, I cut him off there, or something like that?
Like, your parents were, and then I would just have, like, a line with the quotes, and then the next paragraph start just saying, Trisha cut him off, or I cut him off there. I cut him off before he could finish, or something along those lines.
I mean, yeah, probably. I kind of understand the use of triple dots, if they're not too excessively used. Because I feel like saying every time I interrupt him, he's interrupted, I cut him there, or something like that might maybe damage the fluency of the writing. I don't know.
Yeah, obviously you'd have to change it up a little bit. You can't use the same thing over and over again, but I feel like the dots are used a little too much as well. So that's just,
yeah, probably.
I think that's more of a writer's preference than anything. So, then, I don't have too much trouble with the exchange from there. And then, no, you don't. You've had this knowledge prior to this moment, and I've been the one in the dark, and now we're literally in the dark. I've kept it together when my parents died, and when I thought I saw that thing, and even when we first met, I kept my cool. Now you tell me my parents were some kind of guardians, and you just expect me to accept that? Aaron, there's so much I can take before I break. So from here, I like it. I actually do like it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is a quote rule. If you establish her before with some of those changes about her stammering everything out, then her just jumping from here to here to here to here makes more sense. I would just say, her just accepting, now you're telling me that my parents are some kind of guardians, and you just maybe from there, what kind of, instead of just saying, and you expect me to accept that, what kind of guardians? What were they guarding? What, what's this whole thing you're talking about? You're expecting me to just take your word that they're guardians and nothing more? Aaron, there's only so much I can take before I break. So, I feel like that would be a good place to put it. And then,
that kind of brings me to one of the problems I have in general. Now, this might just be my personal preference, obviously, but I kind of feel like it's a bit of a cop-out when you interrupt every conversation in a story with some action. I have seen a lot of movies that way, when they are almost at the point of breakthrough, they're talking about something, maybe they're exploring a story, and then just an explosion, an invasion, something happens, and then the conversation is done.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like there's a hint of that in this writing, in general. Yeah, right here we could maybe explore the Guardians a little bit more, but then the electric bar things happen.
Yeah, so I feel like you could go from here and ask about, what are these Guardians, who are they, and then she goes to grab on the bars, hoping to break free. I don't think you need this forgetting about the electric bars, because I feel like that just seems like your character's just being stupid at this point, and from what we've established, she's not stupid enough to just grab pure electric, pure metal with electricity running through it. So I feel like she could just grab the electric bars in a panic, or angrily trying to get out or something, and then she feels a shock. She gets jumped straight from a wall behind me, and as she passes out, memories from random memories start flooding back from her past 2 months, and then maybe the memory with her and her brother playing blind man's bluff could be worded a little differently. Maybe about something, maybe talking a little bit more. I think this kind of goes a little further than just what I'm showing here.
By the way, is Blind Man's Bluff just
Like hide and seek? Yeah, it's essentially hide and seek. That's
okay.
That's not too worrying for me.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm not American, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I don't call it Blind Man's Bluff either, but it's fairly easy from the paragraph to
to understand it.
But I would restructure this whole memory to like
I kind of feel like a problem with this memory might be the length of it.
No, I don't think the length is too bad. I just think, instead of, Trisha, I know you're there, Tyler called out, you could say, Tyler came out and I tried ducking away from the shed's bay window, and then Tyler calls out, Trisha, I know you're there. He clearly saw me, and then you don't really need the buzz of the jackhammer with the jackhammer. You can just say, Trisha, I know you're there. He saw me. I heard Tyler sigh, and just say, okay, so you don't want to play, you don't want to do anything. I get it, but do you really think that locking yourself in your room will change anything? I kind of thought coming out here to San Rafael would bring us closer together and help us move on, but all you're doing is living in the past. And then, obviously you have to establish this is kind of helping establish. Maybe you could just say I'm going inside to watch Netflix, maybe, or something like that.
I was actually gonna talk about the same exact thing. Captain America here just seems a little too specific, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is something that you can kind of associate with more things. I think Captain America makes it way too specific and kind of limits what you can imagine your character is into, what she likes.
I guess my problem with the specific references, and there's going to be a Fast and the Furious reference a page later, I kind of feel like it reminds us of the world that we live in, reading this book, instead of being reminded of the world that the book takes place in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. You want to keep this in your own world.
At least leave the door a little bit open for us to just fantasize about it.
Yeah. I think, next thing I knew, I was back in my house in San Francisco. I think that's a perfect place to have an awesome scene transition. So make something up. The memory fades away, and then a new memory fades in, or she gets thrown from the backyard. She gets thrown out, and she's traveling through nothingness, or colors are flying by, and then she lands in her house in San Francisco. I think here you can really describe how she's jumping from memory to memory, and I think that would be actually something that's pretty cool to bring up for it. So, you obviously have Tyler fighting, but you have the picture that comes back the picture comes back from it. So I think a cool way to do this, because obviously this is to get to the picture, but I think maybe having a different way to bring up the picture would be from a different memory. Something maybe running through the house, or a fight and the picture falls down, and maybe she's fighting with her brother or something, or she's fighting with her aunt, because this looks like, obviously, from what she's described, her parents had just died, and she's moving in with her and her brother are moving in with Aunt Christy. So she could obviously be a little, she could be reasonably upset here, and maybe there's a fight, maybe the picture falls down, and one of them walk out of the room, and she goes to pick up the picture, and then it's this. And then I think maybe describing the picture a little better brings a little more into it. From there, we go to the doorbell ringing, and when she opens up the door, it's Jake. I would say reword the work uniform. He worked at a movie theater with a horrendous uniform that changed, every 3 months or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The uniform followed the usual pattern of being a horrendous black polo shirt with a movie title on the back, and then just leave it there. Like with a horrendous black polo shirt with the current movie out, like with the current blockbuster advertised on the back, and then you don't have to bring up Fast and Furious 7. You can just kind of leave.
I totally agree. I mean, reading this, I'm now thinking about Vin Diesel and Paul Walker instead of the characters in the book.
But that also kind of makes it so that you're not stuck in this certain time, referencing Captain America, referencing Doctor Who, referencing Fast and Furious 7. All right, this story takes place at this specific time instead of around this time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just taking place in a certain time rather than in a general time instead of a specific time. So you have the questioning, Jake, what are you doing here? Well, I haven't heard from you since, and then instead of the dots, I think you can well, I haven't heard from you since, I haven't heard from you since the hospital, and I was worried about you. I didn't get a chance to talk to you at the funeral. You had left before I could say anything. I think that would be a little better, in my opinion, but obviously it all depends on how your view on the dots are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I didn't know what to say. I had never been great with confronting people. Even telling him how I felt about him 4 months ago was the hardest thing I had to do. I tried to stammer something out, but I just couldn't, I think. And you could get rid of the sentence below there. I feel like that would work out really well. And
then, I was gonna say that thing as well. We is not necessarily a sentence that serves the purpose here.
Yeah, I think
just
I tried stammering something out, but I couldn't, and
exactly.
that works just as well. And then just look, I get it. What happened was shitty, and you need some time. But I don't want you to hide yourself away for the rest of your life. I care about you. Now, if that's how Jake normally talks, then fine, leave it as is. But I would say something, maybe along the lines of, look, I get it. It was a tragedy what happened to your parents, and you need some time to get over it. But I don't want you to hide yourself away from people who care about you. I care about you, and I'm worried. Something like that.
No, it didn't bother me at all. It's probably what I would say exactly, so...
Yeah. And then, no, I don't think you get it. I don't want to be friends anymore. So this is obviously something that you need to establish.
Yeah, this was a bit random.
Yeah, so obviously you need to establish something like that before everything goes on. And then, I like the exchange here. And then instead of having the two cold hands on her cheeks, maybe have Aaron performing CPR. That would be the more logical thing, I think, in this sense. And then we go down a little bit. Oh, thank God, I was worried that the shock from the bars would have fried your brain or something. Maybe. I mean, in that sense, I wouldn't say fried your brain. I would say, oh, thank God, I'd worried the shocks from the bar. I was worried you were dead, or you were in a coma or worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the next part here about being like a cold-hearted bitch, I think you'd probably want a different reaction than just, am I a cold-hearted bitch? I awoke with the memory still swirling in my mind. I looked to Aaron, and he gave me a question look back, and then, am I really a cold-hearted bitch? And Aaron looked like confused at him, just like, what? And then, just repeat, I just feel like I've been a cold-hearted bitch, I've been distant with everyone, and then, Aaron being like, I understand you've gone through a lot from the past month, and it's hard to deal with. I think like that would be a lot better of a way to describe that waking up scene from all these memories.
Mm-hmm.
I like the next. I like the next part, all the way down to, as I was saying before you touched the bars, your parents were never supposed to be together, but because they are, things are getting crazier by the minute. I think from here, you could probably have her ask why they weren't supposed to be together, and then maybe have Aaron either explain why you can't have two guardians together, or just say, it's too long, we need to worry about getting out of here first, I'll explain it later.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to move in, and then, but why do you look different? I asked, choosing to wonder about my parents later. I mean, I don't think she would wonder about her parents later if they say your parents were never supposed to be together, and you have this sudden chill running through her, and then her questioning why they weren't supposed to be together. I don't think you can transition from, having your family come into question, and then just putting it off because this guy looks somewhat different. I feel like she would want to go.
I mean, this is probably another example of what I was talking about earlier, to see a conversation through to its end.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of like
follow that through.
To be finished about before moving on to another. So
I mean, you can even just finish it with Aaron saying, "We'll talk about it later," or
yeah, I mean that works as well.
That still ends the conversation, and then she could be, I looked like I wanted to have this question answered, but Aaron obviously wouldn't respond, so I put that aside and then say, why do you look different?
Go with like, I just gave up for that moment. So.
Yeah, something along those lines. And all of my forgotten memories, as they came back each moment I held the amulet. Leonard always had freckles and brown hair. So maybe just reword that a little bit. And all my forgotten memories, and all of the memories pouring back to me as I held the amulet. Leonard had always had freckles and brown hair. He didn't have the same look that Aaron had now. The two images clashed in my mind as I kept holding on to the amulet. Sorry, I feel like that would be a better way to describe it. And then, it's a machine, watch. And then, I feel like instead of just describing this next part about him pixelating, like when a picture on Facebook is loading, I know what I know what she's trying to go for there, but I feel like here, just describe the change. He's pixelating, his face became blurred, the pixels started moving around, and then they reset, and then bright light came around him as I covered my eyes. When the light faded away, I uncovered my eyes and to find Leonard standing before me. And then, obviously changing the how, why, how long. Maybe instead of that is like, how on earth did you do that? I began unsure of how to I blurted out, unsure of how to respond to the situation. And then I think from here, instead of, just saying, the machine can do what you want, it's like a holographic projection, it's a lot of science stuff, and then you just reference two things here. I'm thinking you could just make it, I'm not exactly sure how the machine works. I've just been instructed I've just been instructed on how to use it properly. And then just like, it's very simple. You just press the button on the orb, and it'll change your look to how you want to look, or something like that. That's a better way than describing referencing other things, and it still leaves it where you can suspend disbelief on a machine like this being out there. You don't have to describe how it works exactly, because your characters don't know how it works. If your characters don't know how it works, then your audience shouldn't know how it works either.
And another thing here is like that Captain America reference was a little too specific for me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Captain America the Winter Soldier. I watched that movie several times, but I was like, where was even such a thing in the movie? Before I was like, oh yeah, the Black Widow mask thing. So I think it's a little hard to catch reference there.
Yeah. And then from here, referencing Doctor Who to try to explain the parallel universe, I just say, don't reference anything. Explain it how you want it to work.
Exactly.
Explain it. It's a parallel world connected by a machine or a portal or something like that. And it's and the world is connected through this big machine in this spot. Just go with something like that. Don't always have just these references to other stuff, because you're forcing your audience to go, if they don't watch Doctor Who, if they don't watch Captain America or anything like that, you're forcing them to put down your work and go and watch something else, and then hope they come back to understanding your work.
I agree definitely with that, to explain it with your words instead of referencing something that already defined the mechanics of how this works. But even if you're gonna reference here, I feel like the Doctor references are a little insane at this point, so
yeah.
Even if you change it to use in Back to the Future, right, or something like that, I feel like it would flow a little better, so...
Yeah, so, just a quick thing right here. Going as Aaron or Leonard and I talked, the lights had gone on in front of the cell. Just say Aaron. You've established him as Aaron. You don't need the or Leonard there. And then, I could see more of the cave illuminate. Just, you don't, like, if there's lights and then the cave illuminates with torches, that's, are the lights really old? I think you could just take the lights out of the cell, just going unnoticed as Aaron and I talked. There was a light coming from from one side of the cells. The cave wall kept getting brighter and brighter as torches carried by two people came in front of the cell. One of them was Creature, the other one was Jake. Or the other one, like, instead of the triple dots here, I would put the other one was comma Jake with a question mark.
Yeah, that feels like better.
Yeah.
I agree on that.
The quick banter from here is okay. Obviously, the evil villain part you put here, you've established him later on, so I don't feel the need to correct you there. You can obviously just go back and put the evil villain in there.
The name was Balthazar, right?
Yeah. And then I think from here, you can have Aaron just kind of explain a little bit of why he knows Jake is evil or under control. He wants to take you back to his master and torture you. He's a robot, and he's programmed that way. That's all you need to explain a little bit of this backstory, and then you can go, that can't be. And then I started, and then it's true. I was a robot created to befriend you and take you when Balthazar gave the signal. And then I have Jenny in here when he says, I met Jenny and something changed, something clicked for me. I would say, I would just hope that Jenny's been established at this point. We obviously don't have Jenny established, but I was in shock. I was in shock. I had thought that Jake had somehow gotten through the parallel world or wherever we were and came to save us. But as I looked at Jake, as if for the first time, I realized that I didn't know him at all. He was always agreeing with whatever I said, never once telling me much about what he thought. I never went to his house or even met his parents. I guess my brain had been filled with what I thought was a reasonable story for Jake, but none of this explained the creature next to him. Maybe just saying, I explain it in a way that, Jake always seemed to have a good Jake always seemed to be just normal, but now looking back in it, I can see suggestions almost placed into my mind that made me feel like Jake was normal, but none of what I knew about him got him out of the situation he was in, especially now standing before me with one of those creatures next to him. I think that would be a nice way to word that. And then, instead of, if you're here to help us, then why did you come with that? As if he anticipated this question, Jake got something out of his pocket. It looked like a remote control. I think better from here would be Jake struggling to get out. Find a way for him to struggle explaining why the creature was there. Because obviously, he's struggling to convince both Aaron and Trisha that he's on their side. So I feel like
you feel like Jake would be shocked to hear the question, or
yeah,
you mean
more or less shocked, or just that point where you stand there trying to think of a way to explain yourself out of a really bad situation. I feel like he would be there for a couple seconds trying to go through his mind, trying to prove that he's on their side even though there's this creature next to him.
I actually disagree with you on that. I mean, Jake came here with the plan to rescue them, didn't he? So he controlled the creature, so I feel like he would probably guess that they'd question the creature next to him. So I don't think it would shock him necessarily.
Okay, I mean that's obviously how you want to go with it from there. The hoedown, throwdown from Hannah Montana. I mean that's just way too obvious of a reference.
Yeah, that was a bit too on the nose, I guess.
Just do some other dance, some famous dance. Do the
Macarena or something.
The Macarena. Do the worm. Something that you don't need a reference. You don't need to watch a show to understand or to try and figure out what he's doing. Stop. This might be a trap. Jake was the one who wanted to do it. Obviously, we get the Balthazar for the evil villain. That's got to be the evil villain. I don't get why you have this. So far, this was getting old. Maybe just now this was getting on my nerves. Just reword that, or just have a different sentence explaining why she's getting mad. Aaron grabs her wrists before this when she tries to walk through, but maybe as he loosens the grip, instead of seeing in the periphery vision with him biting his lip, maybe when her wrist gets loosened, she looks back at him and sees him biting his lip. Obviously, this was something I wasn't supposed to know about. I think that would be a better way of doing that, just because, if you've ever looked in periphery vision, there's no detail whatsoever, so you can't put anything in detail with it, unless she has a borderline superpower with that periphery vision. So, then describing Jake's circuitry, I think you could do a better job with that. A bunch of muscles and a few wires which appeared to be cut in two. This is the point where you can, I guess, hide the science by overcomplicating it. There were wires and muscles intertwined in there, and she couldn't understand what any of them meant, but there seemed to be some things some damages to the circuitry or something like that. You know, you can confuse us with that, and then you say, you know, see, I've rerouted the instructions, and then just say, you know, you know, I wasn't familiar with standard robotics, and even if I was, this looked way too complicated for me. Aaron, however, seemed to find this as an acceptable response.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he obviously let go of your wrist, so after a moment's silence, he walked in front of me and out of the cell doors. You know, I think that works a little better. The conversation here is okay. I had no problem with that. And then, you know, instead of going into the entrance that the sound came from, Aaron and Jake started towards the entrance to our right. Maybe just saying, we heard a sound coming from our left, so Aaron and Jake decided to go towards the right to leave the cave. Or, you know, Jake went right to leave out of the cave, and Aaron followed. I turned to follow them, but the creature grabbed my arm, started to drag me back. Fighting it off, that's fine. I think from this paragraph about, you know, feeling a chill creep onto me, having come from California, like, you don't have to say a hot place in San Rafael, just having come from California, I wasn't expecting chilly weather. Coming from anywhere near San Rafael or something like that. I mean, that just seems like a really weird how she described that, so I think you need to reword that a little bit. The corridor we were running through was dark, save for the torch on the wall every 5 feet. I mean, unless they're like matches, that corridor is going to be pretty light. So I would say the corridor was poorly lit, with torches on the wall every 5 to 10 feet, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree on that.
And then, you know, I could still hear the noise come from behind us, but it got fainter as we got further in the cave. That's fine. You know, Jake yelled back at us, found it. Having, maybe, I was still running and looking back, and continued to run forward until I ran into Aaron, who had suddenly stopped. I think that would work a little bit better about her running into him. Everything's fine. You know, guys, let's get this figured out after we get above ground, I yelled. And then, wait, Aaron said, holding up the orb in his hand, we've got to change your look. Otherwise, Parallel, you might now want to help us. You know, either you establish that, you know, maybe change your look, otherwise you might get recognized. Might be one thing, otherwise, you know, change your look, otherwise, Parallel, you might now want to help us. I looked back in a questioning look, but the orb but he already clicked the button on the orb. And I began to change. So, and then the next part, I don't know if this is just a new paragraph. I wouldn't mind if it was just a new paragraph of her just standing in front of her parallel universe self.
Could you repeat that? I'm kind of losing your voice.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, after the other parallel, you might now want to help us, and then going straight to the girl who stood in front of me was a mirror image of myself. I think as a new paragraph, that's fine, as long as nothing happened between them leaving the cave and going and finding her parallel self. I think that's fine. I think from here, I continued to say nothing while noticing the guitar in the corner to parallel me turn towards the desk. I think you can combine those paragraphs and make it one. I think you lose nothing from combining those together. and then you have, what happened to Tyler in this picture, I asked. Parallel me, goth girl. I mean, that's, obviously you're going to want to change her to goth girl. That much is obvious. But I think you probably want a better establishing way of that. And be like, it's all so confusing. Trying to decide, looking at me and looking at this girl next to me. She seemed so much like a goth girl that I couldn't. That was the only way I could distinguish myself from her. I think that would be a great way to establish goth girl. Your name is Trisha too. I don't know exactly how you would change the dots here. So, if you're going to keep dots in a lot of things, I feel like if you do change dots in the other places, but you're still comfortable using the dots, then the dots here are fine. And then, we ran through the house, knocking some oil paintings Mom collected on the ground. As we neared the kitchen, I noticed the samurai sword Dad had gotten from the county fair a year prior.
Just to throw it out there, I feel like Goth Trisha could also work as the name of the parallel Trisha. So
yeah, Goth Trisha could work as well. When I would reword for why Dad had gotten a samurai sword a little better. When he got it from the fair, he turned to me and said, "It looks cool, doesn't it? Maybe one day it'll bring you good luck." Instead of you asking him why he got it, just have him explain it to you right then and there. I think that would be really cool. And then, I stopped running. I took the sword off the wall. Behind the sword on the wall, I noticed a small note that read, "Good luck, T," from Dad.
I have a bit of a problem with this, actually.
Okay.
I don't think it makes sense to put a note with "Good luck, T" behind a sword that you'd probably hope your daughter doesn't use ever. So
maybe
I don't know. It just felt like a little odd to me.
I think maybe having the note hidden inside the sword, because having it behind the sword would be something that she might glance and read, curiosity read. But if it's tucked inside the sword and she opens it, and the note was hanging on the sword as she opened it that said, "Good luck, T," "Good luck, T" from Dad, and then have it rip off, I think that would be a cooler way to tie it together real quick.
Yeah, probably.
And then this quote, I know exactly what she's trying to do. It's that, "Little girl, come out to play." I think you can reword that better. I think it's "Little girl, exclamation mark, come out," and "come out to," and then "play," and then just AYAY. So it's just "play," or something along those lines. Because you're obviously singing it, but just you can't describe the tone extremely well with just having it in a full sentence like that. So "little girl," exclamation mark, then "come out to play," where it's just PLAYAY with an exclamation point there. The monster called in a singing voice. And then
I also feel like the words "the monster called in a sing-song voice" makes it more of a singing voice rather than how the words are written in the quote. So
yeah, so
I don't think it matters that much. So
I mean,
that's just.
I would like it to be described a little more like that. So it's just because it's in a in a song voice, it's just "Little girl, come out and play." And
yeah,
I don't.
I guess that. Yeah.
I know, and I'm almost 100% positive that that's not the way she wants it described. So I would change that a little
yeah,
bit.
probably.
And then from here, The creature emerged into the hallway with its tall frame bending to compensate for the short ceiling. The monster's tail bled ichor onto the rug, leaving a black trail in its wake. Its tail flopped back and forth. I saw my opening as it made its way into the living room next to us. This is where I think if you're going to go with unique creatures, describe it better. Describe it more. The monster came in, and it was its tall frame bent over, and he was using his hands to help him walk, to compensate for the short ceiling. His tail bled ichor on the rug, leaving a black trail as it wagged back and forth. Does he have teeth coming out from it? Does he have teeth coming out? I almost see this creature as, go and watch Spirited Away when there's that the black masked creature that comes through. I'm almost thinking of that creature when you describe it, but I would love to have.
Can you repeat it again? I couldn't hear you.
Have you seen Spirited Away?
Yeah, I did.
You remember the black creature that follows around the little girl, always offering the coins, and he gets fatter and fatter. I imagine this creature to be like that. So, describe him more. Describe this character, this creature that's supposed to be scary. Describe the creatures at the beginning. I would say make them unique so that they're scared. And at this point, she's kind of overcoming her fear of these creatures. And then, the next part is, "Hey, big guy, you want me? Come and get me." I said, overcoming this fear I had from the creatures.
I mean, especially right before this quote, I feel like describing the monster a little more is a great opportunity here. I feel like it's one of the best places to. Because right here we see the main character actually face with the monster. I don't know if it's for the first time, obviously, but you see her confronting this creature, so a little description might also give us a small break so we can experience the emotions better.
I mean, not just a small break, but just kind of describe, just kind of make this creature scary to us again, they're all, if you're making them all unique, then make this creature unique in its own scary way, and then the quote is okay, I'm overcoming how scary these creatures are, and I'm going to fight back.
It has even more of an effect on us.
Yeah, I'm gonna avenge what they did to my parents. I'm gonna stop whatever they're trying to do now. So, I careened to the left, forcing the monster to turn around. I ran in a circle around the monster, nearly tipping over the vase Mom made a year ago. The monster, as I had seen before in the jail cell, was clumsy on his feet and took a second longer to orient himself to the new direction I was headed in. I slashed at his feet, which caused him to fall on his back. With his hands outstretched, the monster tried to catch himself, only to find himself slipping on the black ichor. That is perfect.
I totally agree.
I know exactly what happened. I know how Trish confronted this monster. I can understand that this took place in maybe 10, 15 seconds tops, and boom, it goes. And then, you hear, "Trish, let's go." Aaron shouted at me from the doorway. He grabbed Goth Girl's hand while he took something out of his pocket with the other. I think right there, describe something that comes out of his pocket. Something that helps him travel between dimensions, or some locket or something that makes him invisible. Something that just leaves us with a cliffhanger that wants us to that says, okay, I was going to put down the book right here and move on, but instead I want to read another chapter.
Yeah, now I gotta go further.
Yeah, so something like that. So, but that's it for the book. So, obviously we're reviewing it. We liked it. We think we obviously made these decisions, or these quotes, these indentations here, because we liked where the story was going, and we want to see it improved, and we want to see that brought in the beginning and the end. So, speaking of the beginning and the end, Doruk, how would you like this work to be introed? How do you want it to be brought in?
So the summary basically states that this girl has her first encounter with the monsters when she's a little kid. I feel like a chapter that maybe talks about that night specifically, how her parents are taken away, how she experiences it, how she's afraid of these monsters. I feel like almost like a prologue chapter would be really interesting to start there, because that is what sets the gears in motion for the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm. For me, I would like to have the story just open up at her parents' funeral. Open up there, and then just, as she's moving away, she grabs certain things that bring back memories of that night. That something was burned. It gave her a flash in the mind of however her parents died. I would like that to start there, and then just introduce her slowly. Let us know about how her parents died, how all of this happened, slowly. But as it's coming as well, you introduce and you establish some of these other characters.
So it's not going to be like a bulky flashback chapter.
Yeah, there's no don't make it a bulky flashback chapter. And I think just going straight linear with this isn't the way to go, since in the rest of the book we see, she's flashing back to certain stories. She's flashing back to this memory. She's flashing back to that memory. So establish that she's been flashing back before, just to help with the other flashbacks, I guess.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I just feel like a little kid witnessing her parents' death in a fire is a little bit better of an attention grabber than a funeral, which is a bit of a hard to get past part. So
I mean, it's hard to get past, but at the same time, if you write it the right way, you want to figure out why they're at this funeral. What was that J.J. Abrams early movie about the alien creature that shows up in the middle of a town? I can't remember it off the top of my head. Just look it up. It's one of the early J.J. Abrams movies. I could look it up, but essentially that. I feel like that's the way that movie started is how this book should start, where it's just there's a funeral going on. There's a little kid there with all of her parents' friends, and she doesn't really know what to do. She doesn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll quickly find the movie, but as we keep going, how do you want this story to end?
Now, obviously, as these two chapters are from the middle of the story, I have no idea how it's gonna turn out. I mean, I don't even know if the good guys are gonna win. I assume so, but I probably would like.
The movie, by the way, is Super 8.
Oh, now I see what you're saying. Okay, I really like that movie actually. So how would I want this story to end? Probably a bit of a bittersweet ending would fit the general character of the main characters. I mean Trish, obviously. I feel like a happy, jolly ending would not necessarily fit her. I feel like at the end of all the action and everything settled, I feel like she's the girl that would look back and say, holy shit, we really did that. So I feel like a bittersweet ending would kind of fit. I don't know about the storyline, obviously. I wouldn't talk about how it would end. So
I'm liking the bittersweet ending. I would say maybe go along the lines of maybe she starts to fall for Aaron. Obviously there's a lot of back and forth there. It seems like they're building up to something with Aaron.
That could be something.
So maybe she falls in love with Aaron, and then Aaron ends up dying in the end to Balthazar, to the bad guy, and then she has to go out of her way and kill him, or like she kills him right there, and then she like talks with Aaron, and she cries, and then she walks out with her with the remaining part of her family, and they close the portal or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's obviously Jillian's gonna have to be more creative with how she gets to the evil bad guy with Trisha,
Mm-hmm.
and see how that goes. But that's it for Jillian's work. We've got a little bit more after this quick break here in the podcast, so make sure you stick around for that. We'll have a little discussion and a contest. So we'll see you when we come back.
I was too young, and I didn't understand that you were the one, and I can't wait to see you hindsight is fleeting when your heart's bleeding and all you can see is red, till you discover it is within each other to forgive and make amends. If I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have said what I said. I took the long road, thought I'd be better on my own. Sometimes what's right is wrong instead, 'cause I was too young, and I didn't understand that you were the one, and I can't wait to see you again. Oh, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait, 'cause I was too young, and I didn't understand that you were the one, and I can't wait to see you
Alrighty, so we're back. Obviously, we took a lot on Trish's work, but that's one of the first pieces of work that came in, so we wanted to give it the proper attention it needed. So hopefully that works out for you, Jillian. And let's move on to a little bit of a discussion here. Doruk, what is the difference between a single piece and a series of work? What do you notice are differences between that? The difference between a giant book and a series of books. What are the liberties that each of them can take?
Now, obviously, the main difference is basically the length. In a series, you could go for like 8 seasons, 40 episodes, even 23 episodes per season sometimes. And in a movie, you basically have around 2 hours to tell a self-contained story. So when you're doing a series, you can create a lot lengthy storylines, I feel like. You can have a lot of undertones and things that may or may not be revealed later on, because you have a quote-unquote later on when you're doing a series of works. And when you're doing a movie, considering, I'm going to assume it's not like a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, because that's basically a series of works. So when you're doing a self-contained movie, you have to start, develop, and finish a story to a certain extent. So I feel like you are very much hand-tied when you're doing a movie compared to doing a series or like a mini-series or something.
Okay, so which one do you prefer? Do you prefer having just one big work, or do you prefer having a series?
It depends on the product, man. I have no idea. I'd probably go for series so I can work out some of the kinks that I have on the previous episodes, per se. But in a movie, it's just, you got one shot, man. It's scary.
Alright, for me, I would say the differences between a show and a series are how well you can go into, like, how much depth you can go into everything. Like with a series, you can obviously, explore minor characters and what they can do and what they can't do. The problem with that is making sure your minor characters are worthy of being explored. In a movie, in a series, if you're going through and you're exploring a couple minor characters or a couple minor details or something like that, and it goes bad, your show can go from being really amazing for 5 episodes, and then the next 2-3 episodes suck, and now people are questioning every episode you're going at. Whereas with a movie, your minor characters might not be that important, might not be that interesting, but your audience won't know that. Your audience just has to make assumptions on what your minor characters are doing, and you can stick to what your main characters are doing. You can stick to the main characters and not have to worry about the minor characters so much. So, I think...
Yeah, it might be that I'm really into minor characters, that I prefer the series over a movie. Because, whenever you do... Like, in Doctor Who, there are Doctor Who light episodes, quote-unquote, where you basically don't have Doctor Who in the episode. So I really enjoy those kind of things in series.
Yeah, I would say if I have a story that's got a huge background to it, and there's a lot of stuff that just needs to be explored before going into stuff, then I would say, yeah, you're going to have to go with the series on that. But if I have something that's, even if it's a little big, but it's still, iffy, I would say going for just one giant book, or just a single work, and just going through that, and not exploring all the aspects of the universe, and just leaving it up to my audiences a little better. So, quick question for you. Is there a series of work that you would like to put into a single piece, or is there a single piece of work that you'd like to put in a series?
Okay. That's an interesting one. Why don't you go first? I'm gonna get back to you on that.
Alright, for me, I would like the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy to be, I would like those, I know I'm going to cheat a little bit with it because it's 3 stories instead of 1, but I would like that to be fleshed out into a series. I think the way that they describe the Batman, or the way they describe Batman in there is exactly how I think a real-world Batman would be. He does normal things that are practical, but you can see this hint of, he's got this unworldly thing, and he's always somehow pulling something out of his ass, when in reality he's he's not really doing that, people are just obsessed with this myth about him, and they can create stories. So I would just love to see him, have like a series of how he goes and he takes down the Scarecrow and he takes down Ra's al Ghul, and like the training and everything like that to build him up. And then I would love to see, him going toe-to-toe with the Joker. I would love to see, at the end, too, just have, like, these episodes of just making Bane this unstoppable character. And then...
I mean, you could just watch Arrow Season 3 is pretty much Batman Begins, just worse.
Yeah, so, I mean, I would love to see that, so...
Yeah,
have
that
yours?
would be really interesting. On the contrary, I would probably want Daredevil, the Netflix series, to be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm basically in love with that series. I think second season even doubled how cool that show was, and that's saying something. And one of the main reasons I actually want him to be in a movie is so he can basically join the Avengers. He's way more capable of doing stuff than Hawkeye or Black Widow.
Okay.
And he's such a cool character. I actually want him to be in an R-rated movie, to be honest.
But would the things that make the Daredevil series interesting be able to be condensed down into a movie?
I actually do think so. I mean, talking about season 2, for example, one of the main conflicts is between Daredevil and Punisher, obviously, and their ideological conflict. And one of the things that stayed with me after finishing it was that rooftop scene where Daredevil is tied up and he has the gun taped to his end. And you could just basically have that whole scene in the movie. And then you could just... I mean, of course, I'm cheating here a little bit, but you could just have Elektra in the follow-up movie or something.
Okay.
I feel like you can capture the essence of the character in a movie just like in a Netflix series.
Okay. All right, so we'll wrap this podcast up here. It's been going for a lot longer than the first one. So obviously in our last contest, nobody decided to enter anything because everyone knew that the most interesting story to write about would be the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who essentially took a White Walker as his bride and had the Kingdom of the North and the Kingdom Beyond the Wall team up together to finally take him down and have him stricken from history. So having a story about him is clearly the most interesting thing that could come out from George R. R. Martin. So our contest this week, or after this podcast, what book or comic book would you like to see turned into a Hollywood movie? Key emphasis on Hollywood movie there. So, Doruk, let's hear your entrance for the contest.
I'm gonna go with a bit of an interesting choice here. We'll go with Batman R.I.P., written by Grant Morrison. Now, obviously, there are much more mainstream stories, like Blackest Night was one of the things that first came to my mind. But I feel like a Batman R.I.P. movie would be so much fun. Have you ever read it, by the way? I don't know.
I have not.
So, in this story, basically, Batman is dead, and all of his enemies and friends are holding a funeral for him. And they basically go up to the body and they tell stories about how the Batman died. So, Alfred goes and he starts talking crazy about how Bruce went crazy after his parents' death and he needed a purpose, so he became the Joker, and he reveals that he was actually the Joker, Alfred. And then Selina goes up, he talks about how huge their love was and how they lived together until the end of Batman's moments. So it's, I think, a really interesting approach to Batman. It's a bit of a trippy story. I think you might enjoy it.
I think that would actually be a pretty cool take on the Batman. I think a lot of...
Yeah, it would be really interesting.
I mean, the Batman's been... The most of the takes of the Batman have been, through his eyes with awesome supporting characters. I think that would be an awesome way to just kind of take that as another way of just looking at Batman through other people's eyes. Looking at it through what our eyes would be if we interacted with him. So, for me, my entrance to the contest would be Attack on Titan. I know Japan put out their live action and it was absolutely awful, but hear me out. I think you can take out a lot of the filler and a lot of the the looking back and forth and the overemphasis on saying certain things. And you could probably make it into a 3-part series, or even a 4-part series, 4-part movie. Obviously, Lord of the Rings was able to condense way more stuff into less. So I think you can easily do that with Attack on Titan. I think you can.
Yeah, I've never watched the anime or read the manga, but I definitely watched the live-action movie. I like the concept.
Yeah, I mean, the concept there is amazing about just having, these. I think Hollywood is looking for, especially now, the horror genre needs to get away from the jump scares and go back to like the scary creatures.
Yep.
To kind of just cycle through, and I think what better way to create a scary creature than this giant human-looking thing with a regular face that has no purpose on this world other than to just eat you. Like, it doesn't even need...
Such an intimidating creature as well, man. I mean, can you imagine seeing that on the big screen?
Yeah, I mean, like, if it was done right, it could be a really scary movie with, like, it could be scary, it could have, like, these amazing action scenes, and it could have, like, a little intricate plot as well, because there is lots of corruption that goes on in there as well. So that would be my entry for the contest.
And something that I really like about Attack on Titan is that it's not a pointless horror movie. It wouldn't be. Like,
yeah.
It's not just like your house is haunted by a ghost and just deal with it. I mean,
it's not
actually have a purpose in that movie. So
yeah, I mean you could almost classify it. You could almost make it into a horror genre if you wanted to make it so that.
Yeah, you could definitely.
Because I mean, for the most part, the only battle that they actually have considered a victory is when the Titans break down a door on the second wall and they just shove a rock in there and kill all the Titans in there. They still evacuated, lost the city for the most part. Tons of people were eaten. Tons of soldiers lost their lives. People were committing suicide left and right, and they had to rely on something that they didn't even know would work or not, just to like hold them back. So you could easily make this into like a horror genre that they have to overcome. And unlike the other like scary monster stories where it's like, oh, we moved into this scary ghost and we refuse to leave because we don't believe in ghosts, and ghosts just keep saying, we're here, and we're like, we don't believe you, we don't believe you, we don't believe you, and then it's like, oh, now we don't believe you, we're gonna leave, and it's too late, and then they end up dying. And it's like jump scare, because we've already kind of released what the creature kind of looks like, and the creature isn't that scary. So I think that could work out really well. So I'm interested to see what your comments are. You can leave them in the video down below. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the podcast and some stuff we might put out on the side. And if you're reading this on the Aminos and you made it this far, thank you for actually clicking out of the website and listening instead of just randomly liking it because Amino told you to. We really do appreciate it, and if you want, we have our email in the description below as well as on the Amino page. So send us some work. We'll be more than happy to review it, as we showed with...
I mean, we gotta thank Jillian too, man.
Yeah, I mean,
for the first entry.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Hey, getting some writing done there, buddy?
Yeah, setting up in public so everybody can watch me type my big screenplay.
Me too. All real writers need to be seen writing, otherwise what's the point, right?
You should totally write that down.
Okay, will you watch me?